All right, here we go. Video number 2. Y'all ready for this? All right. We have 3 terms in this one here. We have term number 1, term number 2, and term number 3. When we have 3 terms, we call this a trinomial. Tri means 3, like a tricycle has 3 wheels, and a trinomial has 3 terms. So, when you see a trinomial, the first thing you're going to do is look for a GCF, the greatest common factor. Let's look at the numbers 6, 13, and 5. Do they have a GCF? I think not. So, after that, we take out our big red X. Let's find where that big red X is. It's under the lines here somewhere. Here it is. I like to use a red X. The big red X comes out, and we have to take the first number and multiply it by the last number, and that's going to give us the top of the big red X. 6 times -5. That gives us a -30. What goes at the bottom of the big red X? Well, that's going to be that middle number there. That middle number is going to be a 13. So that goes at the bottom. We need to find 2 numbers that multiply to give us the top, but they will add to give us the bottom. Let's take a look at the top. It's a negative. What multiplies to give you a negative? What signs multiply to give you a negative? We have a plus and a minus. That's the only 2 signs that will multiply to give you a negative. When the signs are different, they will actually subtract to give you the bottom. We say add, but let's think of these numbers as subtracting to give you 13. So let's take the factors. We'll take the factors of 30 and we'll see which 2 numbers multiply to 30, but then subtract to give you 13. So all the factors of 30. Let's start with 1. 1 and 30. Let's take 30 minus 1. Does that equal 13? No, it does not. Let's take 2 and 15. Big number 15 minus small number, does that equal 13? I believe it does. We got to watch our signs. This is plus 15 minus 2. 15 minus 2, if you put in your calculator, will give you 13. So we found our 2 numbers on the side of the X there. Once we find our 2 sides of the X, the 2 numbers on the side, that's when it's time to get out our shovel and dig out something. And we dig out the middle right here. That 13X, we dig it out and it is gone. We keep the beginning, the 6x squared. We keep the end. Here's the beginning, 6x squared. Here's the end, minus 5. And in the middle, we're going to replace what we dug out, that 13x, with a plus 15 with an x and a minus 2 with an x. I got that from these 2 sides of the x, 15x minus 2x. Once we have our 4 numbers here, we're going to factor by grouping parentheses around the first 2, parentheses around the last 2. We're going to find the GCF of the first 2 numbers, 6 and 15. 6 and 15. GCF cannot be bigger than your smallest number, can't be bigger than 6. What multiplies to 6? 1 and 6, 2 and 3. Now, what of these goes into 15? Let's start with the biggest number. Does 6 multiply into 15? No, it does not. Does 3 multiply into 15? Yes, it does. 3 is going to be the GCF. We're always going to have an x with it because the first number has an x squared. The second number has an x squared. You will always have an x at the beginning of these. We're going to divide this now by 3x. Divide each of those first 2 terms by 3x. 6 divided by 3 is 2. X squared divided by x is x. If you like to think of the opposite instead of thinking of dividing, and you like to think of multiplication, it's 3 times 2 gives you 6. X times x gives you x squared. Let's move on. 15 divided by 3 is a plus 5. X divided by x, they cancel out. And we have our first parentheses, 2x plus 5. Now this third number here, when I say third number, this is the first, this is the second, this is the third. Whatever the sign is goes right in the middle. The sign of this number is negative, so we bring it down as a negative or a minus in the middle. We're looking for the GCF of 2 and 5. 2 is 1 and 2. Well, look at 2 does not go into 5, so it can't be 2. So all we have is a 1. In this case, we do have to put the 1 in here. There is no x that goes with this because this 5 does not have an x. So we don't have an x in common between this term and this term. We start our parentheses and we divide by negative 1. Negative 2 divided by negative 1 with an x is a positive 2x. Negative 5 divided by negative 1 is a positive 5. Our final answer is going to be 2 parentheses, 1 and 2. What goes in one of those parentheses is exactly what you have in these parentheses. They should always match. They have to match. If they don't match, we didn't do it right. So we're going to write that just one time. 2x plus 5. That is one of our answers. The other answer, if we would erase these parentheses, if we would erase those parentheses that match, what would you have left along that line? Look at this line. What do you have left? You have 3x minus 1. And that is your final answer, just what I wrote there. I'll highlight it in light blue. This is your final answer right here. All right, let's hit the next one. Do we have a GCF? This is a trinomial. It has an x squared at the beginning. It has an x in the middle. It has a 4 at the end. Do we have a GCF of 3, 8, and 4? We don't. There is no GCF. 3 doesn't multiply into 4. 3 doesn't multiply into 8. There's nothing that multiplies into all of them. So we're going to start with our rainbow, or the first number times the last number. Here's our rainbow. I don't want that. Get that out of there. All right, let's get to our pen. Let's do a blue. We got 3 times 4. And that rainbow will give us the top of our big red X. Get out the big red X. The top of our big red X is going to be the first number times the last number. That's 3 times 4. That's going to be 12. The bottom of our X, what do we put there? Hopefully you all said negative 8. We're looking for two numbers that multiply to give us a positive 12. Now, the signs, let's think about the signs to multiply to a positive. That either has to be a positive times a positive or a negative times a negative. But it has to add to a negative 8. So the two positives, two positives don't add to a negative. So we must have two negatives then, because if you add two negatives, you will get just a bigger negative. So let's look for two numbers that multiply to 12. And because the signs are the same along the sides of the x, they will add to 8. So let's get the factors of 12. What multiplies to 12? We'll start with 1. 1 times 12. Does that add up to 8? No. 2 times 6. Does that add up to 8? Sure does. So we have negative 2 and negative 6. We have the sides of our x. Once we have the sides of our x, it's time to get our shovel out. And we're going to dig out this middle number. This middle number is going to be gone. Middle number is gone. We still need the first number, 3x squared. We still need the last number, plus 4. The middle is going to be replaced with -2 with an x, we got from right here, and right here, -6 with an x. Once we have the four numbers, we put parentheses around the first two, we put parentheses around the last two. We're going to find the GCF of the first parentheses. 3 and 2, they do not have a GCF. X squared and x, they have x as a GCF. They have an x in common. You're always going to have an x in this first spot. Next one, we divide by x. 3x, and sometimes it's easy to put a 1 in here. 3 divided by 1 is 3. X squared divided by x is x. You're always going to have a number in this first spot and this next spot. -2 divided by 1x is going to be a -2. X's cancel out. This minus, the third number, 1, 2, 3, the third number, whatever that sign is, comes down. Minus. 6 and 4, what's the GCF? Well, I'll do 4 and 6. 1 times 4, 2 times 2. Let's do 6. 1 times 6, 2 times 3. What's the biggest number that they have in common? It's 2. So we're going to divide by a -2. We will never have an x in this spot because this number right here will never have an x with it. They don't have x in common, these two. We can't take out an x here. -6 divided by -2 is a +3 with an x. 4 divided by -2, -2. All right, our final answer, 2 parentheses. One of your answers will be what you have in these parentheses. You just write it one time, 3x minus 2. Your other answer, if you imagine that these parentheses are gone, what you have is x minus 2. Let's go on. 15. All right. These are the shortcut ones. And the reason it's a shortcut is because the first number is just x squared. You can put a 1 in front of it. There's an automatic one there or an understood one that we don't see. That's fine. Shortcut. Okay. We have shortcut. So these whistles, bells and whistles, should go off in your head when you see x squared at the beginning of a trinomial. It should tell you there's a shortcut. Can you do shortcut if it's 3x squared? No. Can you do shortcut if it's 2x squared? No. Can you do shortcut if it's 10x squared? No. Can you do shortcut if it's x squared? Yes. We love that shortcut because it's going to make life a little easier. And who doesn't want life to be a little easier or math to be a little easier and life? All right. With the shortcut, you still take out your big red X. What goes at the top, it's still the first number times the last number, but you don't even have to look at that 1 because 1 times -10 is just -10. It's just going to be this number at the top when we have the shortcut. What goes at the bottom? 3. We're looking for the signs here. What two signs multiply to give you a negative? Has to be a positive and a negative. Positive and a negative. I know because the signs are different, they're going to subtract to give me 3. So we're looking for the factors of 10. 1 times 10. 10 minus 1, that's not 3. 2 times 5. 5 minus 2, yes, that is 3. Watch the signs. 5 minus 2 gives us a positive 3. Shortcut means we're pretty much done. This is your answer. You just have to put them in 2 parentheses with an X or whatever letter they're using. In this case, we're using X, and we mostly do. X plus 5 because that's a plus 5. X minus 2 because that's a minus 2. That's it. Love the shortcut. All right. Next. All right. First thing we do is we look for the GCF of the 3 numbers. 4, 20, 24. I don't care that I didn't put a -20. I'm just looking for the GCF of these numbers. Don't have to worry about the signs. Does 4 multiply into 20? Well, it can never be bigger than our smallest number, remember. So it's not going to be bigger than 4, but it can be 4. Does 4 multiply into 20? Yes. Does 4 multiply into 24? Yes. So our GCF is 4. So we have to take that out. Can we take out an x? Well, let's see. First term has an x. Second term has an x. Third term does not have an x. So we cannot use x as our GCF. We only can use the 4 as our GCF. So we're going to take out a 4. 4 parentheses. Divide by 4. Divide by 4. Divide by 4. Some of you might like to use the multiplication. 4 times what is 4? Well, 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times what is x squared? 4 times x squared is 4x squared. I think I might have said that wrong, but I think you got it. So 4 times what is negative 20? 4 times negative 5 is negative 20. I don't have an x at the bottom, so I have to bring down that x, just like I did before. I didn't have an x at the bottom, so I have to bring down the x squared. 4 times what is 24? 4 times positive 6 is 24. All right. I do have a 1 in front of that x. I don't need it. But either way, you should realize that's just an x squared. So when you see just an x squared, bells and whistles should go off in your head that you can do the shortcut with this. All right. We still have to take out our big red x here. And at the top of the big red X, we're just using what we have in the parentheses. Let me give a little highlight there. We're using this here. Okay, let's remember this 4 has to come down at the end. So our answer will have 4 in it at the end. But at the top of the big red X, we're going to put that last number, number 6. Remember, it's 1 times 6. It wouldn't change. It's still 6. What goes at the bottom of the big red X? That's going to be a negative 5. Believe it or not, 6 is one of the hardest ones to get. I swear it is. It's confusing sometimes, all right? If you want to pause this and think about what the numbers are, fine. But I bet a lot of you get it wrong. And I'm saying that because I get it wrong a lot. And I've done this a few times. But you might be better than me and you might get it right. So if you want to pause and try and figure it out, pause now. If not, we're moving on. I need two numbers to multiply to a positive 6. They have to multiply to a positive and add to a negative 5. What multiplies to a positive? It's either going to be two positives or two negatives. But because they have to add to negative 5, they must be two negatives. So let's see the factors of 6. 1 and 6. Do they add to 5? No. 2 and 5. Not 2 and 5. 2 and 3. Do they add to 5? They sure do. And both signs we know are negative, 2 and 3. It's very easy to do 1 and 6, to think it's 1 and 6. And that's actually what I made an error with earlier. All right. So we have our numbers on the side of our x. We did the shortcut. The bells and whistles went off in our head because we had the x squared. So we have our answer right here sitting in front of us in green. We just have to put the x minus 2 and the x minus 3. Also, because you had that GCF, let's go with the calligraphy pen right here. All right, because we had that GCF of 4, it had to come down in front of our answer there. This is our answer right there. All right, I'm going to stop this video. We're going to upload this one as the second video. I'm going to do one more video to close out this one afterwards.